The bar smells like spilled beer and cigarette smoke that's soaked into the wood for decades. It's a Saturday night in Montgomery, Alabama, sometime in the late 1940s, and the place is packed with working men who've come to drink away the week. The jukebox is broken. The owner, a thick-shouldered man named Carl with a stained apron tied around his waist, stands behind the bar, wiping down glasses with a rag that's seen better days. He's sweating through his shirt even though the windows are open. The heat doesn't move in Alabama, it just sits. A young man walks in carrying a guitar case. He's thin, too thin, with dark eyes that look older than his face. His clothes are clean but worn, the kind of clean that comes from washing the same shirt over and over until the fabric starts to give. He's not drunk, but he moves with the careful slowness of someone who's been drunk before and knows what it costs. His name is Hank. He doesn't say much when he walks in, just nods at a few faces he recognizes and makes his way toward the corner where there's a stool and a little space near the back wall. Carl watches him. Everyone watches him. Not because he's famous, not yet, but because he's carrying that guitar, and in a place like this, a guitar means one of two things. You're about to make the night better, or you're about to make a fool of yourself. Hank sits down and opens the case. The guitar inside is old, scratched up, the finish worn down to bare wood in places where his hand has rested 1,000 times. He lifts it out carefully, like it's the only thing in the world that matters, and rests it across his knee. He doesn't tune it. He already knows it's in tune. He did that before he left the house. Carl sets down the glass he's holding and leans forward on the bar, his arms crossed. "You planning to play that thing or just look at it?" His voice cuts through the noise of the room. A few men near the bar laugh. It's not a mean laugh yet, just the kind of laugh men make when they're testing someone, seeing how they'll react. Hank doesn't look up. He adjusts the strap, shifts his weight on the stool. "Thought I might play a little," he says quietly. His voice is soft, but it carries. "There's something in it that makes people listen even when he's not trying." Carl snorts. "That thing looks like it's been through hell and back. You sure it still works?" More laughter now. A man at the bar slaps the wood with his palm. Another one leans over and mutters something to his buddy. The attention in the room is starting to shift. People are looking at Hank now, waiting to see what he'll do, waiting to see if he'll fight back or fold up. Hank still doesn't look at Carl. He runs his thumb across the strings just once, and the sound is low and clear and perfectly in tune. It's a sound that shouldn't come out of a guitar that looks like that. It's a sound that makes the room go a little quieter. Carl doesn't notice. Or maybe he does, and that's why he keeps going. "I've seen 100 boys come through here with guitars," he says, louder now, playing to the crowd. "Most of them can't play worth a damn. They just want attention. They want folks to think they're special." He picks up another glass and starts wiping it down, casual, like he's not even talking to Hank anymore, just talking to the room. "That guitar looks like you pulled it out of a trash heap. You really think you're going to make anything good come out of it?" The room is quiet now. Not silent, but quiet enough that everyone can hear. Quiet enough that what happens next will matter. Hank finally looks up. His eyes meet Carl's across the room. There's no anger in them, no shame. Just a kind of tired patience, like he's had this conversation before and knows how it ends. He shifts the guitar on his knee, settling it into place, and his fingers find the strings. And then he says 3 words. "Let's find out." His voice is calm, not loud, not defensive, just calm. And before Carl can say anything else, before anyone can laugh or jeer or make another joke, Hank starts to play. The first note is a single string, bent just slightly, and it rings out across the room like a bell. Then another note, lower, and another, higher, and suddenly there's a melody forming. Something simple and sad and so familiar it feels like it's always been there. His fingers move across the fretboard with the kind of ease that only comes from years of playing. from nights alone in rooms with nothing but that guitar and the sound it makes. He's not showing off. He's not trying to prove anything. He's just playing. And the sound that comes out of that beat-up old guitar is heartbreaking. It's a song about loss, about loneliness, about nights that last too long and mornings that come too soon. The melody is simple, just a few chords, but the way he plays them makes them sound like the saddest thing you've ever heard. His voice comes in soft, almost a whisper, and the words are about a woman who left and a man who stayed and the empty space between them. The lyrics don't rhyme perfectly. They stumble a little the way real speech stumbles, and that makes them more honest. The men at the bar stop talking. One of them sets his glass down without making a sound. Another one turns on his stool to face the corner where Hank is sitting. The room isn't silent. There's still the creak of wood, the shift of weight, the breath of 40 people in a hot room. But the noise underneath is gone. The restlessness is gone. Everyone is listening. Carl stands behind the bar with the rag still in his hand, frozen. His mouth is slightly open. He's staring at Hank like he's seeing him for the first time. Hank doesn't look at him. He doesn't look at anyone. His eyes are closed now, and his head is tilted down toward the guitar, and he's somewhere else entirely. He's inside the song, inside the sadness, inside the sound. The song is short, maybe 2 minutes, maybe less. When it ends, Hank lets the last note hang in the air, lets it fade slowly until there's nothing left but the memory of it. Then he opens his eyes and looks down at the guitar in his lap. He doesn't say anything, doesn't smile, doesn't wait for applause. He just sits there, holding the guitar, like he's waiting for the room to tell him what happens next. For a long moment, no one moves. Then one man near the back starts clapping. It's slow at first, hesitant, like he's not sure if it's allowed. But then another man joins in, and another, and suddenly the whole room is clapping. It's not wild applause, it's not cheering. It's the kind of clapping that comes from respect, from recognition, from hearing something real. Carl sets the rag down on the bar. His face has changed. The smugness is gone. The humor is gone. He looks at Hank for a long time, and something in his expression softens. He picks up a glass, fills it with whiskey, and walks around the bar toward the corner where Hank is sitting. Hank looks up as Carl approaches. There's no triumph in his eyes, no "I told you so," just quiet observation like he's watching to see what Carl will do. Carl holds out the glass. "On the house," he says. His voice is different now, quieter, almost apologetic. "I didn't know." Hank takes the glass but doesn't drink from it. He sets it down on the floor beside the stool. "Most people don't," he says, not bitterly, just as a fact. Carl nods slowly. He looks at the guitar, then back at Hank. "Where'd you learn to play like that?" "Everywhere," Hank says. "Porches, street corners. Anywhere someone would listen." "You got more songs?" Hank glances around the room. The men are still watching, waiting. He can feel the weight of their attention, the shift that's happened. A few minutes ago, they were ready to laugh at him. Now they're ready to listen. "I got more," he says. "Play 'em." So he does. He plays for the next hour. Song after song, each one different, but each one carrying the same weight. Songs about drinking and cheating and heartbreak and God. Songs about trains leaving and women staying and men too proud to cry. His voice cracks sometimes, goes rough in places, but that's part of it. That's what makes it real. The men in the bar don't talk, they don't move, they just listen, and some of them stare down at their drinks, and some of them look away like the songs are touching something they don't want touched. Carl stands behind the bar and watches. At some point, he stops wiping glasses. He just leans against the counter and listens, his arms crossed, his face unreadable. When Hank finally stops playing, when he sets the guitar back in its case and closes the latches, the room is different. It feels smaller somehow, more intimate. The men start talking again, but their voices are lower, softer. A few of them come up to Hank and shake his hand. One older man with gray in his beard just nods at him, doesn't say anything, and walks out into the night. Carl walks over as Hank is standing up. He doesn't say anything at first, just stands there with his hands in his pockets. Then he clears his throat. "I was wrong," he says, "about the guitar, about you." Hank looks at him. "It's all right." "No," Carl says, "it's not. I judged you before I knew you." "That's on me." Hank picks up the guitar case. "You're not the first." "That make it right?" "No, but it makes it familiar." Carl is quiet for a moment. He looks around the room, at the men still lingering, at the empty glasses on the tables. "You ever need a place to play," he says, "you come back here, any time." Hank nods. "I appreciate that. I mean it. You got something. I don't know what it is, but it's real. It's just songs," Hank says. "No," Carl says. "It's more than that." Hank doesn't argue. He just shifts the guitar case in his hand and heads toward the door. As he's leaving, Carl calls after him. "Hey!" Hank stops and turns. "What's your full name?" "Hank Williams." Carl nods slowly, like he's committing it to memory. "I'll remember that." Hank doesn't say anything else. He just walks out into the night, into the thick Alabama heat that wraps around him like a blanket. The street is dark except for a few dim lights from windows. Somewhere down the block a dog is barking. Somewhere farther, a train whistle sounds, long and low. He starts walking. He doesn't have a car. He walks most places. It gives him time to think, time to turn over melodies in his head, time to figure out what words fit where. The guitar case swings slightly at his side with each step. It's heavy, but not in a bad way. It's the kind of weight you get used to. Behind him, back in the bar, Carl is cleaning up. He picks up the glass of whiskey he gave Hank, the one Hank never drank, and stares at it for a moment. Then he pours it out in the sink and sets the glass down gently. He's thinking about the songs, about the voice, about the way the room changed when that boy started playing. He's thinking about how easy it is to misjudge someone, how easy it is to see the surface, the worn clothes, the beat-up guitar, the quiet voice, and assume there's nothing underneath. He's thinking about how wrong he was. He's also thinking about the look in Hank's eyes when he said, "Let's find out." There was no anger there, no need to humiliate him back, just a quiet confidence, a willingness to let the music speak for itself. Carl finishes wiping down the bar and turns off the lights. As he locks the door and steps out into the street, he looks in the direction Hank walked, but the street is empty now, just shadows and heat and the sound of crickets. He stands there for a moment, hands in his pockets, and he realizes something. He just heard something that's going to last. He doesn't know how or why, but he knows it. That boy with the beat-up guitar and the sad songs, he's got something that doesn't come around often, something that cuts through all the noise and all the bullshit and just lands clean and true. He thinks about telling his wife when he gets home. He thinks about how he'll describe it, but he knows he won't be able to. Some things you can't explain. You just have to hear them. The years that follow move fast for Hank Williams. He plays more bars, more honky-tonks, more stages in towns so small they don't have names anyone remembers. He writes more songs, dozens of them, hundreds. Some of them become hits. Some of them become the kind of songs people sing at funerals and weddings and late nights when they're alone and trying to figure out what went wrong. He gets famous. Not the kind of famous where people recognize him on the street everywhere he goes, but the kind of famous where people who love country music know his name. They know his voice. They know the songs. But fame doesn't change what happened that night in the bar. It doesn't erase it. If anything, it makes it clearer, because Hank keeps meeting people like Carl, people who look at him and see the drinking, the pain, the weariness, and they assume he's finished. They assume he's got nothing left, and every time he has to prove them wrong. Not with words, not with explanations, with the music. And every time it works, There's a night in Nashville, years later, when a promoter tells him he's too drunk to go on stage. Hank is sitting in a dressing room backstage, and he can hear the crowd outside, restless and loud. The promoter is a sharp-dressed man with slicked-back hair and a contract in his hand. He's angry. He's telling Hank he's unprofessional, that he's ruining his career, that no one wants to book a man who can't stay sober. Hank doesn't argue. He just stands up, picks up his guitar, and walks past the promoter onto the stage. The crowd goes wild. He plays for an hour. Every song is perfect. His voice is raw, but it's powerful. The crowd sings along to every word. When he finishes, when he walks off the stage, the promoter is standing in the wings with his arms crossed, and his face is different, softer. He doesn't apologize, but he doesn't have to. They both know what just happened. There's another night later when Hank is sitting in a hotel room alone. He's been on the road for months. His marriage is falling apart. His back hurts all the time, a constant ache that whiskey barely touches. He's staring at the guitar leaning against the wall, and he's thinking about quitting, just walking away, leaving the music behind, but he doesn't. He picks up the guitar and starts playing, not for anyone else, just for himself. And the song that comes out is one of the saddest he's ever written. It's about loneliness, about being surrounded by people and still feeling completely alone, about the cost of giving everything to the music and having nothing left for yourself. He doesn't record it. He doesn't play it for anyone. He just plays it once, there in that hotel room, and then he sets the guitar down and goes to sleep. But the song stays with him. They all stay with him. The end comes too soon. Hank dies young, in the back seat of a car on a cold New Year's Day, on his way to a show he'll never play. He's 29 years old. The news spreads fast. People who loved his music are devastated. People who knew him aren't surprised. But in the years after, something happens. The songs don't die. They keep going. They get played on the radio, covered by other singers, sung by people who never met Hank but feel like they know him because of the songs. The sadness in his voice, the honesty in his words, it transcends time. It becomes something bigger than one man with a beat-up guitar in a small-town bar. Carl, the bar owner, hears about Hank's death on the radio. He's older now, grayer, and the bar's changed hands. But he remembers that night. He remembers the young man who walked in with a guitar that looked like it had been through hell. He remembers the way the room went quiet when he started to play. He tells the story sometimes when people ask him about the old days. He tells them about the moment Hank said, "Let's find out," and how everything changed after that. He tells them about the music, the way it filled the room and made grown men stop and listen. But what he doesn't tell them, what he can't quite put into words, is the lesson he learned that night. It's not about talent. It's not about fame. It's about dignity. It's about the quiet strength it takes to let your work speak for itself, to not argue, not defend, not attack, just to do the thing you came to do and let the results settle where they may. He thinks about that a lot, especially in his later years. He thinks about how easy it is to judge people, to mock them, to assume you know who they are based on how they look or what they carry. And he thinks about how wrong he was. He wishes he could tell Hank that. He wishes he could say, "You taught me something that night, and I never forgot it." But Hank is gone. The music is all that's left, and maybe that's enough. On a warm evening decades later, in a different bar in a different town, a young woman walks in carrying a guitar case. She's nervous. You can see it in the way she holds herself, the way her eyes scan the room looking for a place to sit. The guitar case is old, covered in stickers and scratches. The bartender, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, watches her set up in the corner. He leans over to a regular and mutters something about how she probably can't play. The regular laughs. The young woman opens the case. The guitar inside is worn, the strings slightly rusted. She lifts it out carefully and rests it on her knee. The bartender raises his voice just loud enough for her to hear. "That thing looks like it's seen better days. You sure it even works?" The young woman looks up. Her eyes are calm. She adjusts the guitar, runs her thumb across the strings, and then she says, "Let's find out." The first note rings clear and true across the room, and the bartender stops talking.